welcome to Five Things to Know. I am joined today by Christine Freeland, immediate past chair of the Internal Revenue Service Advisory Council, or IRSAC. Christine has many career highlights, including serving as president of the National Society of Accountants, presenting at the IRS nationwide tax forums, and developing continuing education events for the IRS Tax Security Awareness Week. Christine, on behalf of our viewers, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Tax Talk today, where IRS representatives and tax industry leaders come together to share their knowledge and experience working in federal tax law. As a career tax practitioner and industry advocate, I know as well as anyone the importance of our community providing feedback to the IRS. I would like to ask a bit more about the important role that you had with IRSAC in providing the IRS with the critical and timely information. Christine, it's always great to see you. But my first question is, can you tell us about your role and experiences working with IRSAC?
Sure. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me today. So I joined IRSAC in 2023 as just a member of the Small Business Subcommittee. IRSAC is divided into 5 subgroups, and everybody serves in a different subgroup. And I started out in the Small Business Self-Employed unit, and then in 2024 became the vice chair, and then last year I was the chair of IRSAC for last year. It's been a wonderful experience. As a small practitioner, and somebody who's worked with IRS a fair amount, I kind of thought I knew all the operations kinds of things that were going on. But by joining this group and learning about the industries that are involved, things that as a practitioner we don't think about. We receive W-2s and 1099s, but we forget somebody had to process them. And there's the companies that do that, and banking and digital currency. And so our group is represented by all these different people. So it's been an amazing experience just to learn so many different things and how much IRS is impacted by things that have nothing to actually do with processing a tax return.
Wow. Well, I'm sure quite interesting. Can you tell us how IRSAC has evolved over the years, the importance of the tax professionals' involvement with IRSAC?
Sure. So IRSAC, like anything else, is evolving over time. One of the things that we are trying to move into a more real-time advocate for the IRS. The charter for IRSAC is that we present this annual report, and we work on this report through the year. So we are given topics by units within IRS or units or issues that our members in the committees come up with. But one of the things we have noticed over time is we spend a whole year writing a report that we put out in traditionally November, but something happened in June or May, and IRS could have used assistance then. So we're trying to move into a more real-time advocate for the IRS to be of assistance. And we're also trying to move into a better role of helping to implement what we suggest. We come up with, at the end of the year, we can have 30 to 40 recommendations for the IRS, and then pretty much they're turned over to whatever unit handles that to implement. And we're trying to move into a role of helping with the implementation side, be it reviewing documents or information they're going to present out to the public. And so we're trying to move a little more into this microwave society that we live in, with where everything is a little more instantaneous.
You mentioned the report, and I understand that the IRSAC recently released their annual report. First of all, what does this report consist of? And as some top highlights that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. So I actually have it, and I didn't ask, but I'm going to show it. This is our IRSAC report. As you can see, it's pretty comprehensive. We presented it just this January. Traditionally, it's done in November, but unfortunately, due to the government shutdown, they weren't open back up in time in order for us to actually complete the finalizing of the report, get it printed, and get the whole committee back into DC. So we have a normal January meeting, and we just went in for the January meeting and presented then. We presented to the new CEO, CEO Bisignano. It was a great report. So a couple of the highlights that were kind of across the board were more digital resources and then communication. So with digital resources, we were looking at things like simplifying online accounts for both the tax professional and taxpayers, whether you're an individual taxpayer or a business taxpayer. Also, issues with identity theft and online information reporting. These were different things, and we were even working on things like helping to modernize some of the forms. Some of the IRS forms haven't really been changed in many, many years, probably longer than I've been doing taxes, which has been a really long time. And then the other issue that seems to be across the board is communications. We dealt with the IRS website, getting communication out there about the Savers Match program that is coming up. And then communicating tax literacy is really not at an all-time high. And so one of our issues was how to educate small businesses on their tax compliance and their tax obligations. So those are the kinds of things that we looked at that are pretty broad across the board. And of course, IRS funding. That's an ongoing, making sure that we have a comment about how much IRS needs funding. I think sometimes we forget that 97% of our nation's revenue is collected by the IRS.
You mentioned the government shutdown, so I'm sure that was quite a challenge in itself. But other than that, what other challenges did you find? What was the biggest challenge that you found as well as achievements while you were chair of IRSAC?
We started out with one commissioner. We had acting commissioners. We got a new appointed commissioner. And then ended the year with an acting commissioner and a new appointed position of a CEO. And our report is to the commissioner. We are a committee that reports. Our job is to report to the commissioner. So having that many this year, not always knowing who was in charge was definitely interesting. But I have to say that our communications liaison team, which John Leopold is the IRSAC designated official. He was like a rock because he lost a huge amount of his department. We have, as subcommittees, we have IRS liaisons that work with us, and they're the go-between between our committees and the IRS staff that we need for assistance. And most of our liaisons took the early retirement, and so mid-year we ended up with all new staff people. And I just have to say, they stepped up like champs and were able to step in, take over, and just keep us moving. So from that perspective, it was a very interesting year. And as we started working on topics or issues, as we call them, we started out the year with staff people that said, this is an issue, we're helping you. And by the time we were actually working on solutions, there were different staff in place. So it definitely was a different year from what we have had in the past. But all in all, just everybody stepped up. And at some point, especially at government shutdown, we thought, are we really ever going to get to present our report? But again, we did, and it's a great report. And if you haven't looked at, especially if you're a practitioner, you really should.
I'm glad you gave a shout out to John Leopold and his team because he's a big help all the way around. He's a great guy and a big supporter of Tax Talk as well. So I know that he'll like to hear his name being brought up because we always like to see him out there. Now, one last question. How can our viewers get involved with IRSAC? Is there a way that non-members can contribute, as well as if they want to be members, how do they become members?
So if you're interested in being a member, we will be taking, we meaning IRS, we'll be taking applications, and they usually post right after April 15th. It's not something that ends up on our radar prior to that. And it is a 3-year term. And it is a big commitment. It could be 10, 12 hours a month. As we get near report time, it can be even more than that. The members are dispersed across different areas of expertise. I came in through small business, self-employed, because that's kind of where my practice is. But we also have representatives from tribal government, from state government, from tax attorneys and people that work in international issues, as well as just the average tax professional, be from small firms, somebody like myself who's, basically a one practitioner office, to really big firms and the large companies. So if it's something that you're interested in, it's a great opportunity to give back to an industry that I know for me has served me really well. And if that's not where you want to be as far as it's getting involved, there isn't a per se way, but IRSAC does have email. We are through the communications liaison department. And if there's issues that you're seeing that you feel like somebody could address, those could be forwarded in through those channels. But if you are interested, the application process will be this spring. The application deadline will close probably sometime late May. And you can get more info about IRSAC in general and where the application will be at irs.gov/IRSAC.
And I do believe that, if I'm not mistaken, Christine, feel free to jump in. But I believe that we see these announcements in the email alerts that they send out. The IRS sends out.
Yes, and it should go out through the email alert and also through Federal Register.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Christine, this has been really great. Thank you for joining me today on 5 Things to Know. On behalf of our viewers, I want to thank you for your service, especially your role with IRSAC. This work benefits the IRS and the taxpayer community, as well as our nation's taxpayers. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you again on a future program. Thanks to you to all of you for watching it. And as always, it's been great learning with you. Be sure to join us again on an upcoming Tax Talk Today program.